You're watching France 24. Welcome back to the newsroom. It's time now for a business news update. And Owen Fairclough joins me in the studio for that. Good morning to you, Owen.
Morning, Catherine.
We're going to start off with this big story, incredible story. HSBC are caught up in a huge money laundering scandal.
The question is, will the phrase pervasively polluted go down in the annals of corporate history? What a great phrase, particularly damning for a company. And as acts of contrition go, it doesn't get much more public than this. I'm talking about the head of compliance for HSBC in the United States publicly resigning in front of the US Senate. That was after the bank was given a grilling off the back of a 10-year investigation into a global money laundering scam that saw HSBC channel billions of dollars illegally into the United States. At least one head has now rolled as a result of this affair, but the US Senate isn't buying the atonement just yet. It still wants to know how Europe's largest bank managed to allow some of the world's most rogue states, as well as Mexican drug cartels, to put so much illegal cash into the United States. Olivia Salazar-Winspear has the story for us.
Putting profits before the law, that was the damning judgment of a Senate panel who'd been looking into HSBC's dealings with questionable clients. The investigation uncovered what they called areas of key irresponsibility, including wire transfers of $16 billion to and from Iran, where references to the name of the country didn't feature on the paperwork. The fact that HSBC did business with a Saudi Arabian bank with suspected links to al-Qaeda. The bank's also accused of ignoring evidence of money laundering at its Mexican affiliate. Senators pointed out that multi-billion-dollar transfers from Mexico to the US were suspicious enough to suggest a link to the illegal narcotics trade. But the head of retail banking said he'd tried to safeguard HSBC from fraudulent transfers.
Decisions were made to stop US dollar cash handling in Mexico. We closed branches in areas where there's a high risk of money laundering. We're now in the process of closing all the HSBC Mexico accounts in the Caymans.
In the dock, there was repentance all round. The CEO of the bank's American arm apologized for its failure to act, adding that they were taking steps to address the problems identified. HSBC's head of compliance went one step further, handing in his notice during the hearing.
That now is the appropriate time for me and for the bank for someone new to serve as the head of group compliance. I have agreed to work with the bank's senior management towards an orderly transition of this important role.
The bank's set to be fined for its behaviour, a penalty that could cost them up to $1 billion.
Absolutely incredible stuff coming out of that Senate hearing there. And HSBC shares are actually trading down more than 2% in Hong Kong. When you've got the rest of the market numbers for us.
Yeah, those numbers on HSBC do suggest that was all priced into the stock. As you say, they haven't really taken a huge hit, although HSBC is down by around 8% for the year. On the Asian markets, you can see going into the afternoon trading session there, investors starting to get a little bit jittery with HSBC leading the Hang Seng in Hong Kong to around 1% down. The Nikkei now in negative territory as well, despite opening the day in the green.
All right, now moving on to Yahoo.
Yes, I'll just mention, sorry, Catherine, I will just mention a few earnings out as well in the last 24 hours. Some of the big blue chip companies and the big titans of Wall Street announcing their latest earnings. Top of the list there, Coca-Cola making a modest loss, around $2.8 billion in revenue for the last quarter. But Coca-Cola tends to weather these things very well and did actually beat expectations, finished the day on Wall Street up. Intel as well, also moderately down. You can see Yahoo as well, around a 4% loss for its latest earnings.
Well, it was the first day on the job for Yahoo's latest CEO. There's been quite a lot of changes there. But even though she started work, investors didn't get to hear her ideas. What was that all about?
No, she skipped the earnings call. We're told to really get on and meet all the senior managers at Yahoo. And one presumes as well set out her strategy for how she's going to run this company. She's the fifth CEO in 5 years. This company has got through, it's fair to say, a good number of executives. One thing that Yahoo has got right is the advertising, in fact, a lot of its revenue. And one of the reasons that its earnings weren't quite as bad as people thought was that its advertising revenue is increasing. And that's crucial. Companies like Facebook have struggled to monetize advertising, particularly on its mobile phone platforms. But nevertheless, Marissa Mayer still has a lot of work to do in turning this company around. It's been the target of buyout speculation for the last couple of years now. So lots to do. And as you say, we'll have to wait and see exactly what she's going to do with this company and wait for her first public statement on that.
All right. Now, the IMF has already warned us that the world's biggest economies are in trouble. More gloomy news, this time from the chairman of the US Federal Reserve.
Ben Bernanke is good at moderating and certainly giving modest predictions, but even by his standards, this was pretty gloomy. The headline, according to the chairman of the Federal Reserve, is the US will head into another recession if the economy and indeed the government doesn't sort out its debt ceiling and the budget problems it's been wrestling with for the past 18 months or so. Bernanke noted there are 1.25 million fewer jobs with just 2% growth predicted for the next year or so. This is deeply unimpressive, I should say, for the world's largest economy. Bernanke left investors guessing about whether he's about to unleash more money into the economy to try and stimulate it. He kept quiet about that. Instead, he preferred to focus on what was happening in Europe. Here's Ben Bernanke.
Europe's financial markets and economy remain under significant stress, with spillover effects on financial and economic conditions in the rest of the world, including the United States. Moreover, the possibility that the situation in Europe will worsen further remains a significant risk to the outlook.
Now, the French government resumes the battle to try and save Peugeot later this Wednesday. The company will meet with the Minister for Industrial Renewal to discuss plans to cut up to 8,000 jobs. Now, the decision has outraged unions and President Hollande. He's demanding alternatives from the firm, but then it claims overcapacity here in France has left it with no choice.
A ministerial meeting, just the sort of attention the unions at Peugeot wanted. They're still reeling from last week's shock announcement of 8,000 job losses, but the minister charged with renewing France's industries didn't tell them exactly what they wanted to hear.
His objective was damage control. Like he said, it's to limit the redundancy plan. For us, the plan is unacceptable. It's non-negotiable. As usual, everything rests on the ability of the workers to organise themselves.
The unions want proof of the financial difficulty the carmakers' chiefs claim the company's in. Executives say falling sales have made the cuts necessary, as well as the closure of the landmark factory in Aulnay near Paris. The company chairman Philippe Varin has suggested that Peugeot is suffering because of concentrating 54% of its production in France, as opposed to other lower-cost locations. But as one of France's biggest employers, the company's decisions inevitably become political. The Minister for Industrial Renewal has plenty to discuss with Mr. Varin.
Our watchword is negotiation, recalibration, and reformatting everything that we think is unreasonable. We believe that the nation must come together to save and defend Peugeot Citroën.
The government is to unveil its rescue plan for France's motor industry next week. Philippe Varin is likely to learn sooner if it's to contain any help for Peugeot Citroën.
I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this Business News Roundup. Thanks so very much indeed to Owen Fairclough, our business editor, for that. And thanks for staying tuned to France 24. More news coming up in just a few minutes' time.